seat with designer pillows. Plus, I'm giving you the $800 matching recliner free. Come celebrate all of the free during the Bottom Hills Freedom event.
Oklahoma's own News 9 starts now with Campaign 2022. Oklahoma votes.
Election day turns tonight in Oklahoma, and we're going to be keeping an eye on all the races that you care about. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. We have crews live all across our state for you.
Officially 7 p.m., which means that polls have just closed. We are keeping close watch on the results, and as they come in, we'll be sure to share them with you.
And let me say, the good thing about what we're going to do tonight, because we have a couple of hours to do this, is we're not only going to show you the numbers as they're coming in, but we're also going to be talking to our political analyst, Scott Mitchell, and he's going to be giving us the insight on the numbers. What does this mean for all of us living here in Oklahoma? What's next as we get past the primary? So one of the big races of the night, we're talking about it, U.S. Senate.
Yeah, that's right. Jim Inhofe's seat is now up for grabs, and that's who we're tracking tonight, Markwayne Mullin. They're at the top right now, and according to News 9 exclusive polling, he's the leader right now, and second place, I believe, is T.W. Shannon. We'll see how it plays out tonight. If no one gets above 50%, though, what happens is there's going to be a runoff in August, and this is all to be in the general election coming up November 8th.
You got it. So you can see right now, so we're running through all these candidates. This is just the Republican primary. It is a crowded race. 13 Republicans want this seat that is going to be vacated by Senator Jim Inhofe. He announced his retirement. He'll be retiring come January. Now, Markwayne Mullin, as you mentioned, he has been leading in our polls. It's going to be interesting to see what happens tonight. Felice Romero standing by for us right now. She's at his watch party in Tulsa. Felice?
I got the chance to catch up with a candidate earlier this evening. He tells me he feels good. He's been around the state talking to supporters today. Now, you'll remember he stepped onto the political scene in 2013 when he was able to represent Oklahoma's 2nd congressional district, and he has been able to hold on to that seat since. He decided to throw his hat in the ring for U.S. Senate this year when Inhofe announced he was resigning. Now, while polling has been in his favor, he tells me a lot of this is going to come down to undecided Republican voters.
There's 13, including me, in the race, right? So it'd be tough for us to make it without a runoff. We feel very confident in our numbers, but really the polling's been all over the place.
Now, the polls just closed at 7 p.m. His supporters are starting to trickle into the event center. We are being told that he will address the crowd sometime around 9 p.m. Of course, we'll keep you updated as those numbers come in. For now, reporting live in Tulsa, Felice Romero, Oklahoma's own News 9.
So since Markwayne Mullin is running tonight for that Senate seat, that opens up his seat that he's been holding. That is the U.S. House District 2 seat that's mostly in the Tulsa area right now. This is a crowded race as well. A lot of these people we don't know because it's not the district in our viewing area, but there's a look at just some of the Republicans trying to get that seat now.
Yeah, a whole lot of names right there out there. We want to go back now to the Senate seat, Inhofe's Senate seat, because there's a crowded field there, and T.W. Shannon is hoping to become Inhofe's replacement. He is having a watch party. Now we have our own Colby Thielen at that. Colby, go ahead in Northwest OKC.
Hey, good evening, guys. I actually missed that question there, Carl. They just started up the music here as folks are starting to pour in the door. We are at the Will Rogers Theater right now, and they're getting ready to go here. And I spoke with T.W. Shannon earlier. He said that right now he's mostly feeling excited, and he's also feeling confident. He believes that they were able to put in the work that was necessary throughout this campaign. Not only that, he believes that they were able to stay on message. He says that his message is pretty simple. Of course, he has a lot of issues happening with the administration in Washington right now, but he said one of the things was the success that was afforded to him. Of course, as we know, he was the former Oklahoma Speaker of the House up until 2014 when he lost election to now Senator James Lankford. But he said that his success, he believes, both in politics and what he's had after, is all chalked up to American opportunity. And that's a message that he hopes to take into a November election. However, he has to get through tonight, of course, hoping to come out on top. I asked him if he was feeling nervous. He said that he wasn't. Here's what he said.
We need to unleash American energy. We need to unleash the power of the private sector, and we need to remove the barriers and the regulation that's crippling so many businesses.
Now, one thing that he also said, he believes that Oklahomans, that is, know who the America First candidate is in this race. He also believes that Oklahomans can tell the difference in what he called a true conservative and a campaign conservative. He says the difference is that one person lives it out, the other person says it during political campaigns. He's hoping that message is going to be resonating with Oklahomans. He hopes it did earlier today. At this point, he says that they've worked as hard as they can up until even as late as 5:30. He said his family was still on the phone asking people to come out to the polls. At this point, though, not much more they can do except wait for those numbers to come in. We'll be following them. He hopes the voters were able to pick him out of the crowd, a very crowded field, 12 other candidates. One of them, the former EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt. For the latest on his campaign, let's go out to News 9's Angelicia Pruitt. Angelicia?
The polls just closed a couple of minutes ago. Now candidates like former Attorney General Scott Pruitt are waiting for results. Pruitt has plans to serve Oklahomans again, this time as Senator Jim Inhofe's replacement. Pruitt served as Attorney General for 6 years. He held the position from 2011 to 2017. He left office to work on former President Donald Trump's cabinet as the head of the Environmental Protection Agency. After serving for a little over a year, he resigned following federal investigations into use of funds and ethic violations. In our Republican Party Senate debate, Pruitt says those things did not occur. If he becomes senator, a few things he plans to focus on is addressing the McGirt decision and a big issue for many Oklahomans, high gas prices.
When America doesn't produce energy, China and Russia fill the space. And we need to make sure that we are energy independent, but also exporting energy to the rest of the world.
Another issue concerning a lot of Oklahomans are gun laws. Pruitt says that he is very much against red flag laws. Live in Oklahoma City, Angelicia Pruitt in Oklahoma's Own, News 9.
Interesting you mentioned that too, Angelicia, about the red flag laws, because when we had our U.S. Senate debate for this seat with the Republicans, they were all, at least the four people there in our debate, they were all against those red flag laws.
Yeah, they were. And in fact, Nathan Dahm, who calls himself the most conservative, he was there. And I think you asked him the question, Amanda, because he wrote the legislation for Oklahoma.
He wrote the anti-red flag law, so that we could not have a red flag law.
And basically, he was saying, you know, he's not taking anything back, and this is all after Uvalde. This is all after all the shootings. So they aren't budging on that, despite what has happened, you know, outside in the real world with gun violence.
With Tulsa as well.
They're standing pat, all the candidates, all of them. I know we've been talking about all these candidates for the U.S. Senate seat, but it really is coming down to 5 tonight. The 5, like, you know, and the top 2 would advance unless someone gets 50% of the vote. So I want to check in with Nathan Dahm now, his campaign. Sylvia Corkill is covering him. He calls himself the most conservative in this very crowded race. Sylvia.
Carl, Amanda, Senator Dahm's team tells me they were out until 5 this morning setting out campaign signs. Even so, they tell me they're going into tonight energized, expecting to see him in the runoff and then the election come November. Now, the senator, we were able to speak with him momentarily, and he said he will not compromise his conservative values if he wins.
We're a grassroots campaign. We prefer to talk to the people directly. So that is one thing that has stood out for us. But we hear from a lot of people that were just kind of disenfranchised with voting in general because so many candidates break their promises and different things. So we heard a lot of that. But once they see my record, the people are excited to actually vote for me because I've kept every promise. I've accomplished the things that from my very first campaign that I said I would accomplish.
Closest thing to his heart is God. So his Christianity, his beliefs, and especially with him fighting for a child's life just as a bill was passed.
Now, if he wins, Dahm says he will continue to focus on protecting individual liberties. He also will work towards stopping socialism that he says is taking over the country. Now, as you know, Dahm is up against a large pool of candidates, but calls the others campaign conservatives who don't have his proven conservative track record. News 9's Mike Lever joins us now from Luke Holland's watch party. Mike?
All righty, thanks, Sylvia. Luke Holland was Senator Inhofe's chief of staff. He was also the senator's choice to take over his seat at retirement. Now, from his website, Luke Holland says he got into public service to get America back to its foundation of freedom and Christian values. Holland has made it clear where he stands with his faith, even using a prayer for the country in his campaign ads, a stance that he has taken some criticism for.
A lot of people have criticized me, saying that because I'm talking about my faith publicly, that I'm somehow trying to impose my views on other people. When I think about Christian values, I think about integrity. I think about hard work. I think about loving my neighbor as myself. And those are things that are core in American society.
Now, in spite of the endorsement from Senator Inhofe, Luke Holland is a long shot for tonight, but he's not having a watch party. He's actually watching the results from his home. I'm Mike Glover for Oklahoma's Own News 9.
Yeah, that's why Mike's joining us there from the Capitol there, not a hotel downtown or anything.
Not exactly a watch party.
Luke Holland is not having a party.
Right. Well, we want to take a look. I mean, obviously no precincts reporting yet. Still waiting too on those early voting numbers to come in. Those usually come in, well, within probably the next 5 minutes or so. Typically, we'll start to see those early voting numbers. But we're talking a lot about Inhofe's seat and how he's vacating it. Well, this is another U.S. Senate seat that happens to be up for grabs. Of course, Republican James Lankford, he is the incumbent there. He was elected to the U.S. Senate back in 2014. So he is the incumbent and running against a couple of other people there.
He's expected to roll tonight. I think if you ask your political experts, your pollsters out there, I think people would be surprised to see if this went to a runoff tonight on the Republican side.
Can I just tell you a fun fact too about, if we can go, can you guys go back to that screen just so you can see who I'm talking about? Joan Farr. Okay, Joan Farr, she's in this Republican race. She's running against Lankford. She happens to be running for 2 U.S. Senate seats. 2 of them, one here in Oklahoma, one in Kansas. And
okay,
apparently
so
it's completely legal. She's a native of Kansas. She owns a business and a second home in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And
we'll have to ask Scott about that, or at least do a Google search.
I just thought that was pretty interesting. So,
yeah,
okay.
No, absolutely.
Okay, so there is a look. You can see no precincts reporting, early numbers coming in just now. So those would be the early voting numbers, the absentee ballots, things of that sort. So those are the first numbers that you're seeing us get in as we wait for the precincts to start reporting.
And on the Democratic side, it's a little more crowded. They have 5 candidates there, but we'll tell you what happens as things break down tonight with the numbers coming on in. Okay, do we get to go to our man, Scott Mitchell? I think it is. All right.
Local analyst,
I've been looking forward to this.
And giving us some insight. Okay, Scott, talk to us about the races that we really need to be watching tonight.
Well, now that you've told me about Joan Farr, I want to know, can she use her Kansas numbers in Oklahoma? I mean, that's, and by the way, the first thing they're going to do in Kansas next year in the legislature is we've got to plug this loophole.
Okay.
That's number one.
Yes, they said that as long as she moves to her, if she was to win, as long as she was to move to that permanent location by the time she took office, then it'd be all right.
Yeah. Okay. There's so many great stories. Kate County District 3, Joe Allball is running for county commissioner tonight. That's the one I'm looking at most. And we'll see what happens there.
Okay.
Overall,
course, what are the big races?
Well, of course, the U.S. Senate race. And the quick question to me, and I stole this from the guys over at Sooner Poll, is Markwayne Mullin's 38%? Is that the ceiling? Or is that the base?
That's where he is right now in our News 9 exclusive polling about a week ago about a week ago. So we'll see if that holds up tonight. But he's got a considerable lead. Markwayne Mullin was the first guy in this race to put commercials on the air. He raised $3 million. He loaned his own campaign $1 million for this campaign. And he was the first one out there and just kind of dominated the airways. And it was effective.
Sure. Well, here's the thing. He was first out. He's raced to the lead, but people don't know Markwayne Mullin as much in this part of the state, in western Oklahoma, and people do know Speaker Shannon, who you may remember ran against Senator Inhofe in that race. So this is a guy who is, to me, T.W. Shannon is the most interesting person in this race, okay? He's probably going to be in the runoff. I'll be surprised if he didn't. And then everything changes in those runoffs. I mean, Dr. Keith Gaddy, who'll be watching this tonight, has all these theories about what happens in runoffs. I can't remember their math. I wasn't good at that. The whole point is that I think it's going to be Mullin and Shannon, and then it gets interesting. And then Markwayne Mullin can't be dodging debates.
Well, and that's what I was wanting to ask you about, because we've had 2 debates here, Senate debates, and both times he had reasons for not being able to be there. But when we watched his campaign, it was all on the commercials, all on his political ads. That's how we got to know kind of what his platforms were. It was all through that. Do you think that's going to hurt him?
In this race? Listen, I'm not sure that was a bad strategy, okay? Because who have they been attacking? T.W. Shannon.
Yeah.
All right? That's not going to happen in a runoff.
So Markwayne Mullin, he wants to see Luke Holland, Nathan Dahm there before T.W. Shannon. T.W. Shannon is not a good matchup, potentially, in August. And if there is a debate, I mean, so August is going to come up here pretty soon. Are we going to see a debate, you think, at the time? Or do you think that that's going to be like, oh, no, I got to keep campaigning. I'm not going to debate until the general?
Well, they'll be asked. Right?
Yeah.
And listen, it's been happening. News 9, non-doc, Trey Savage, and Storm Jones doing all these debates. People love this stuff, okay? You get behind the commercials. You get to hear what these people really believe.
Love
you
it.
get to see, do they, they lock up in a debate, or can they even talk? The whole point is that people are going to demand it. He's going to have to show up at a debate. He may be lights out, okay? But at some point, if it is C.W. Shannon, and by the way, Nathan Dahm and Luke Holland have acquitted themselves well in these debates. They've done really well, okay? Got a lot of support. But my expectation would be if Markwayne Mullin doesn't go 50% plus one tonight, that he'll be facing former Speaker Shannon, and that's get your popcorn.
You watched the debates. Do you think they swayed voters today?
I don't think so. I think Nathan Dahm surprised people the most. Okay? I mean, Nathan Dahm has a reputation as kind of a maverick, does things different. He was really good in those debates, surprisingly good. T.W. Shannon is a presence, he's charismatic. Mr. Holland, he's a young man's chief of staff. He kind of looks like that this was the first rodeo, right? In those debates.
And it was, right?
It was.
Okay.
Right. So I think he did not the best of the four.
For our viewers not knowing about Holland, he was the person that Inhofe
He was chief of staff, and when Inhofe resigned and he announced that resignation, he basically said Luke Holland is the guy I support.
And put those coattails out there.
That happened the same time, right? Both announcements were made. I'm out, and I want this guy in. Back to missing debates, though. There's a precedent for this. It works, you know.
It does work.
It does work.
If you're the front runner, right?
Well, you saw Mayor David Holt did this in the mayoral race. You saw Inhofe.
How'd that work out for Mayor Holt?
Yeah,
right?
it worked out fine.
Yeah.
Inhofe did this 2 years ago too.
That's right.
So I mean, when you're in the lead by a considerable amount,
it was good strategy by Markwayne Mullin.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not great for people watching our debates, and it's not great for people that want to know more. But if you're sitting there with a big lead, why would you put yourself out there and get hammered? There, a lot of debates haven't always happened. Remember, well, you guys don't remember Nixon, neither do I. But my point is this: when you do that, you're really exposing yourself. And when you're selling a brand, Markwayne Mullin's selling a brand to the rest of the state. He's a congressman that people don't know in this part of the country. So I think his strategy has been really good.
Yeah.
He does have name recognition with as he's a businessman. So.
Yeah, and there may have been some other things he's done in the last couple of years, like maybe take a trip to Europe. I mean, he's gotten some
been
publicity.
in the news, right?
You mean a mission to Europe? Yeah.
That's true. Can we take a look at the numbers one more time? Again, no precincts are reporting in this race. The Senate race, one of the big races we're watching. This is for the Republican primary that we're watching tonight. But those numbers you're watching right now, you're seeing come in, those are going to be all the early voting and absentee voting.
And these are the four names we're watching here. And so obviously the first number to watch is to see who gets over 50%, right?
You're right, but you know who we haven't talked about, Carl, right now at least, is EPA, former EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt.
Yeah, no, he...
So, okay, so we see him there, and that's how he kind of was doing in the polling. Scott, does that surprise you? Because he is the one who had the national name recognition when we got into this.
5 years is an eternity in politics. It's an eternity in politics. 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, maybe Scott Pruitt becomes really an interesting person. I don't think the New York Times or Washington Post came down to report on it, okay? And he was in the paper, on the television every single day when he's in the Trump administration. It's just, hey, father time is undefeated in politics. And, this would be a Nixonian level comeback if you were to do this 4 or 5 years later, and it doesn't appear that it really took off.
Were you surprised he even ran? I kind of was.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
yes.
I didn't think he would do it, and the early polling I don't think was that big of a shocker.
No,
to a
not
lot
at
of
all.
people who kind of followed what's happened to him.
And he was raising the Trump flag, had pictures of the president at the deal. But so did Markwayne Mullin, and so does T.W. Shannon. I mean, everybody's got some picture of Trump, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And he hasn't picked anyone, by the way, and Trump hasn't endorsed anyone.
Oh, that's what we're all waiting on after tonight.
So
that will only probably happen when there's one Republican. candidate?
I would imagine so. You know, the president likes to be on the winning side in these picks. Okay. So we'll have to see where that's going to go. But you know, they're going to be heading down there to talk to him. Oh, yeah. Whoever wins, if there's a runoff tonight, I know where the airplanes are going.
And who is going to win? That is the question that we're asking, what everybody wants to know. That is what we are watching right here on News 9, on news9.com, all of our streaming channels. Stay with us. We're going to have more on Oklahoma Votes when we return.
Laugh. Catch up. This is a huge impact. Breaking news.
Engulfed in thick black smoke.
Traffic jams. Summer showers.
UV alerts. Events.
Everything you need.
From your locally owned station.
News 9 this morning. We got you.
Locally owned means the best in the sky for you.
This rainfall has just been incredible. I-40 westbound down to one lane.
With the fastest news helicopter and the most experienced pilot, Jim Gardner.
125 miles an hour fighting a Dependency fire. Extract these people from this car. There's two of them right there.
The only street scope.
We can track it mile by mile, 80, 90 miles an hour.
Giving you information you can't get on the ground.
And this tightened up really fast.
Bob Mills, Sky News 9. Only on Oklahoma's own News 9.
Times have changed. People can get their news a lot of different places, but that doesn't always mean the news is accurate.
So many people today feel like they're being cheated, right? They're only hearing one side. There's so much out there, right? And people aren't sure what to believe. And so I think that's our job. That's our job as journalists, to give people all the information.
News 9, we work really hard to make sure that we just put the facts out there, that we're reporting the story as it comes to us.
And you make the choice that you think's right for you and your family.
You gotta know, you're busy and you're trying to make plans. Weather apps are good, but I'm gonna help you fill in the details that they can't. See this? A 40% chance of rain, which means 40% of you will see rain. But which 40%? Winds will be crazy this day, but when and how strong? A fast-moving front could bring some storms. I'll tell you exactly when they'll hit. Check in with me for a weather heads up.
Get warned first with David Payne, the Oklahoma weather expert.
We are so glad that you are with us tonight, joining us wherever, however you're watching us as we are continuing our live coverage of election night.
We are checking in with the campaigns at their watch parties. We're also looking at all the results coming in here to News 9 and then passing them along to you. We also have our Scott Mitchell here, our political analyst, and we'll be speaking with him here shortly. You're looking at just the very, very early numbers in the race for governor on the GOP side. Kevin Stitt right now with a sizable lead. That's to be expected over Joel Kensel right now running second. He is the head of the Oklahoma Department of Veteran Affairs.
Okay, so those are all the early numbers coming in. And then on the Democrat side, you have Joy Hofmeister, former state superintendent, I should say, right now, and then Connie Johnson right now. So those are the two running for the Democrat to be on the Democrat ticket, and one of them will be moving on.
We're going to check in now with Kevin Stitt's watch party. That's where Barry Mangold is in downtown Oklahoma City. Barry.
Yeah, Carl, Amanda, things here at the First National Building have really taken off in the last hour or so. I'm going to have our photographer, Steven, give you an idea. Just behind this line of 11 cameras that we have, this crowd has definitely filled up. This room is filled up, I should say, with supporters of Governor Kevin Stitt and Attorney General John O'Connor. There's another room in the back. Things have definitely gotten real populated here very quickly. So, earlier this morning, though, we did see Governor Stitt vote with his family, and we did just in the past 2 hours speak with him before he actually slipped away into a back room with some security just a few minutes ago. But when he spoke with the reporters, he hit on a lot of hot button issues, including abortion, which we talked about at 6 o'clock, and tribal relations. One reporter asked him how he plans to approach the just tribes in the wake of the McGirt ruling, which, as we know, reestablished tribal jurisdiction to prosecute major crimes on tribal land. It caused a lot of questions and caused a lot of confusion in the law enforcement community and potential civil liabilities as well. But when we asked Governor Stitt about it, he was hopeful for the future. Take a listen.
There's a misconception that I'm against the Native American heritage. That's absolutely not true. I do not want to give away my state to 6 different jurisdictions. And that's really the rub right now, is how do we piece back together and make sure that we all are under one set of rules regardless of our race.
And we did see Governor Stitt talking with some folks here, taking pictures, and we did see him kind of slip out of a back room with some security. We'll try to find out exactly what's going on. But otherwise, this watch party is in full swing. And again, it's a joint watch party with Attorney General John O'Connor. We'll have more on what he said when he spoke with us coming up in just a little bit, guys. Back to you.
All right, Barry. Yeah, we appreciate it. Okay, now we'd like to go to Joy Hofmeister, the likely candidate for Stitt in the general election, according to polls. We'll see what happens tonight, though, as the votes are counted. Joy Hofmeister is the Democrat running for governor now, and she is the superintendent of public schools right now, hoping for a better job. And we check in with Augusta McDonald now with more.
Carl, Amanda, just like Barry said, watch party now in full swing here at Rococo on Western as well. Supporters of Democratic hopeful Joy Hofmeister have a campaign table set up. There's lots of folks here celebrating, and I just talked with the candidate a few minutes ago. Here's what she had to say about some of the things she's looking forward to tonight and for her future campaign.
You know, we're really excited. So many people have volunteered with this campaign, knocking doors, putting all kinds of yard signs up, and we're grateful. But the real work is reflecting that people are ready for change. As we travel all over the state, we are hearing how people are tired of Governor Stitt's extremism.
Like she said, hoping to secure the nomination for tonight and looking forward to challenging a possible former Governor Kevin Stitt in November. Rococo on Western, I'm Oklahoma's own Augusta McDonald.
Augusta, thank you. I want to tell you this right now because just hearing what the AP projects, they do this often when they think that, or they have polling numbers or polls that lead them to believe that they already have a winner for Senator Lankford. In fact, there you're looking at it right now. The AP projects James Lankford as the person who will advance on, and it looks like we have another declared winner as well.
Kevin Stitt. Governor Kevin Stitt seeking a second term, making it to the general election, according to the AP.
Associated Press. They're the ones.
Who are we quoting? Yes, the Associated Press.
A lot of people wonder how this happens when you see only 1% of precincts reporting, and a lot of times they'll either do polls, they'll look at the polls, or take polling numbers at actual poll locations.
Early voting as well, too.
Early voting as well.
That's all factoring into this as well.
Right. So another race that we're watching right now, and this one might be a little closer. Okay, this is the race for Attorney General here in Oklahoma. This is for the Republican ticket, and you have Gentner Drummond and John O'Connor right now, real early on. Gentner Drummond coming in with 57% of the votes.
We'll see what happens as this played out. Gentner Drummond he's from Tulsa, but he's a known guy. I mean, he ran against Mike Hunter 4 years ago, barely lost. But he has a lot of money that he's spending in this race, and he's also gotten endorsements from sheriffs. Sheriffs all over the state, along with, I saw a flyer for Mitt Cornett, former Mayor Mitt Cornett, endorsing Gentner Drummond as well. So we'll see how that plays out tonight. We do want to check in with John O'Connor's camp, the current Attorney General here in Oklahoma.
Appointed by Governor Stitt.
Appointed by Governor Stitt, and he is, Barry Mangold is covering that. He is downtown with more.
Yeah, Amanda, Carl, this is the first time that John O'Connor has ran for a statewide office. We know that he was appointed to the position last year when Mike Hunter resigned from his position. And earlier today, we had a chance to speak with O'Connor, or one of our News on 6 reporters had a chance to speak with him, I should say. And one of the things that we were able to touch on was tribal relations. As I just mentioned with Governor Stitt, he's kind of that is a task to be completed following the McGirt ruling, and that is certainly tribal relations is certainly a priority for the governor's administration, and certainly something that the governor has to be and the Attorney General has to be very well aware of and has to be working on since that confusion in the McGirt ruling happened just in the past few years. When we asked O'Connor about it, here's what he said.
Hopefully, we've got to continue to work with the tribal leadership
and hopefully they'll come back to the table after this primary is over, and we'll be able to work on our economic partnership and just appreciating each other instead of battling each other.
And if you've been watching News 9 or any TV channel in the past few months, you've probably seen the ads for O'Connor and for his challenger, Drummond, as Carl talked about. And you've seen this has been a very contentious and at times even hostile race with those two campaign videos. In Tulsa right now, News 9's own Shannon Russo is in Drummond's watch party following that for us. Shannon?
Yeah, Barry, and things have really picked up here since we last checked in with you. I think it was about an hour or so ago. The room here is really lively with a lot of Drummond supporters here. I would say there is at least 65 to 75 people here. Drummond himself just walked in about 15 minutes or so ago, walking around to different people, meeting with them individually, shaking their hands. We can't tell you that Tulsa County Sheriff Vic Regalado, is here supporting Drummond tonight. He tells me he supported him 4 years ago and sees no reason not to support him this time around. Says he has nothing against the current Attorney General, John O'Connor, but just says there's no reason to go back on that support for Drummond since he is running again. We did also speak with a couple of gentlemen out from the Panhandle area. A gentleman named Dr. Robert Henson drove in from the Guyman area today. It was about a 6-hour drive for him. And he is here tonight, of course, supporting Mr. Drummond, but for a very personal reason. He actually reached out to the Drummond campaign about 4 years ago when he was running back then against the former Attorney General Mike Hunter, and says he left his phone number, his email, and was shocked when Drummond directly reached out to him. Since then, they have been friends, and that's really kind of blossomed, he tells me, in the past year, because he was just diagnosed with an incurable autoimmune disease, and every month since that diagnosis, he says Drummond has personally called him to check in on him. He says even his best friends don't even do that. We also spoke with another gentleman who says a reason he is going for Drummond as opposed to John O'Connor is because of the issue with OG&E, the rate increases incurred from the February 2021 winter storm. He doesn't like that Attorney General John O'Connor backed down on threats to sue for those rate hikes, and says, this is something he's going to be paying for the next 28 to 30 years, his children, even his grandchildren. We mentioned Drummond is here. We don't believe he is going to be talking to the media until those results come in tonight, saying whether he is the winner or O'Connor is the winner. We're going to keep you updated on that, but again, he's in really good spirits. He thinks he can seal the deal tonight, especially after 4 years ago when he narrowly lost in that runoff to Mike Hunter by 271 votes out of about 300,000. For now, we're live in downtown Tulsa. Shannon Russo, Oklahoma's own News 9.
That was a close one for sure.
And it's a good start for Drummond so far, leading in this one pretty good, according to early voting results out there. We'll be watching this one.
Still a lot of votes to be counted. This is such a big issue, and we just need to take a moment to fill you in on this. This is the proposition that would basically build a brand new jail. It would be a $260 million bond for a new jail, and right now 61% of the people are saying yes, we need a new jail. That thing's been around since 1991.
I think the big thing here is when they're talking about having a jail vote on a bond, people didn't like the idea of taxes being raised on a bond for a jail. In
2015 they tried, but it was going to be a new tax, and that didn't get anywhere.
No one wants the new tax, but this is extending a current bond, which means your taxes are not going to go up. They stay the same, and that's the ingredient that's working, at least so far tonight, for the jail. An exact location of where the jail is going to be, not known, but the whole idea was to keep it about 10 minutes within downtown. And the big part of it also bringing in mental health,
having space for
mental health experts, and space for that. Also space for the sheriff office down there as well. That was a big thing. I mean, no one likes our current jail. I mean, especially the people that work there.
Well, if you've watched the news, you've seen they have been plagued with issues there. You've had inmate deaths, and also a couple years ago there was an escape where the people rappelled down the 12th floor of the county jail. They were able to bust out the window. So, I mean, there are obvious problems with the current jail.
No.
So they're saying something needs to be done. Do we put the money toward building a brand new one?
And so finally, the vote is tonight, and so far it's succeeding. So hats off to everyone who organized for a new jail, and we'll see if that continues tonight. Hey, this is a big race here in the Metro. District Attorney for Oklahoma County, and Kevin Calvi now with the lead. He probably has the most name recognition of the others out there. You have the Assistant Prosecutor Galen Giger, who's been doing it for decades.
He's worked for 22 years in the Oklahoma County DA's office.
Jackie Ford is a defense attorney, and Robert Gray, I believe, a defense attorney as well.
So look at the numbers. And then on the Democrat side, we have Vicky Behenna right now with 65% of those early votes. Mark Miles with 35%. Of course, Vicky Behenna, a former U.S. attorney, and maybe most well known because of her efforts to get a presidential pardon for her son, former Army First Lieutenant Michael Behenna.
Also a federal prosecutor, helped prosecute Timothy McVeigh, did Vicky Behenna. So there's name recognition obviously with her, and right now she is in the lead.
Well, we're watching the race very closely. You know who else is? Our Lisa Monahan. Lisa, I know you're watching it closely for us as well.
We are covering this entire race. As you mentioned, there are 6 different candidates on the battle vying for the nomination to become the next Oklahoma County District Attorney. We are trying to cover these all for you. We have crews spread out. Right now, I'm at Ned's Starlight Lounge. This is where Republican candidate Jackie Ford's watch party is in full swing and has been since about 5 o'clock today. Now, this GOP hopeful is just one of 4 Republican candidates on the ballot. Also on the ballot, Kevin Calvi, as you mentioned, a current county commissioner and former state rep who's widely considered the front runner in this race, as we're seeing those numbers start to come in, kind of confirming this. And this is due to his name recognition, as you mentioned. There's also Galen Giger, a career prosecutor who's in his 22nd year at the Oklahoma County DA's office. And then again, Robert Gray, who has worked at a private law practice for about 12 years and at the DA's office prior to that. Now, this has been a contentious race. They've debated. They agreed to a debate, all 6 of them, focusing on key issues for Oklahoma County, including that new jail you guys were just talking about, as well as ongoing relations between local law enforcement and the district attorney's office, and experience inside the courtroom. We caught up with some of these hopefuls earlier today to talk about their qualifications.
So I prosecuted terrorists for the Army in Iraq, and I work with law enforcement every day. I know you have to have close cooperation between law enforcement and prosecutors, and that's what I aim to restore at the Oklahoma County District Attorney's Office.
If you don't know what you're doing in the courtroom, if you haven't tried cases, if you don't know what the criminal law is, if you haven't had literally, in my case, thousands of criminal investigations that I have helped, if not lead, assist in, you're just not qualified to do this, and in my opinion, you're putting the public in harm's way.
Oftentimes, the folks that we're prosecuting are people that we failed as children or as young people who didn't get the services they need, who weren't heard, and who we didn't do our best by. And I want to do better by victims of crimes. I want to do better by the accused, and just bring a new vision of smart justice to Oklahoma County. And I think we have the skills, the resources to be able to do that.
Now, our political insiders telling us they anticipate that the GOP nomination will land in a runoff between Calvi and then either Giger or Ford. So we are awaiting those results, and we'll keep you posted. Meanwhile, Vicky Behenna, as you guys mentioned, has more than 30 years of legal experience, and she's seeking the Democratic nomination, a former federal prosecutor who helped convict Oklahoma City bomber Timothy McVeigh back in 1997. So a lot of name recognition there. Mark Miles, an Oklahoma City attorney. He's previously run for Attorney General in 2018, was unsuccessful though, and for U.S. Senate in 2010. He is looking to become the state's first black district attorney, telling us that this would be a cultural shift for the DA's office. Now, we do have crews attending those Democratic watch parties as well. We're going to gather that information from them and bring it very latest to you right here on News 9. For now, I'll send it back to you guys.
Lisa Monahan doing a lot of groundwork, covering a lot of candidates for us. Appreciate that.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, but not before we do have more results coming in. The U.S. Senate seat to replace Jim Inhofe on the GOP side, and Markwayne Mullin adding to his lead right now over T.W. Shannon coming in second. Very, very early in the night, though. And we'll be right back.
Wake up.
Laugh. Catch up.
This is a huge impact. Breaking news.
Engulfed in thick black smoke.
Traffic jams.
Summer showers.
UV alerts. Events.
Everything you need.
From your locally owned station.
News 9 this morning. We got you.
Locally owned means the best in the sky for you.
This rainfall has just been incredible. I-40 westbound down to 1 lane.
With the fastest news helicopter and the most experienced pilot, Jim Gardner.
125 miles an hour fighting a Depency fire. Extract these people from this car. There's 2 of them right there.
The only street scope.
We can track it mile by mile.
80, 90 miles an hour.
Giving you information you can't get on the ground.
And this tightened up really fast.
Bob Mills, Sky News 9. Only on Oklahoma's own News 9.
Times have changed. People can get their news a lot of different places, but that doesn't always mean the news is accurate.
So many people today feel like they're being cheated, right? They're only hearing one side. There's so much out there, right? And people aren't sure what to believe. And so I think that's our job. That's our job as journalists, to give people all the information.
News 9, we work really hard to make sure that we just put the facts out there, that we're reporting the story as it comes to us.
And you make the choice that you think's right for you and your family.
You gotta know, you're busy and you're trying to make plans. Weather apps are good, but I'm gonna help you fill in the details that they can't. See this? A 40% chance of rain, which means 40% of you will see rain. But which 40%? Winds will be crazy this day, but when and how strong? A fast-moving front could bring some storms. I'll tell you exactly when they'll hit. Check in with me for a weather heads up.
Get warned first with David Payne, the Oklahoma weather expert.
We are so glad you are joining us tonight, however you may be watching us, and we are continuing our election night coverage right here on News 9.
Polls closed a little over 40 minutes ago, so it's very early in the night, but some of the early voting numbers are in, and we're passing those along to you, but it's going to be a long night. We're covering it all right here. We'll provide updates. We do have 2 winners, though, of the night already, don't we? We
2
have the
projected
governor,
winners, that's right.
The governor and also Senator James Lankford.
Governor Stitt on the Republican for the Republican
Yeah.
ticket. He is the projected winner, and then the Republican primary winner in the Senate, Senator Lankford, of course, both of them incumbents.
And then you have this race for treasurer tonight, and this is one we did some polling for this, and there was no clear winner in the polling. There was no clear winner, so we'll see what happens tonight. Todd Russ, though, with the lead very, very early over Clark Jolly, and then you have David Hooten there at third.
Where will this one go? Brittany Toulis joins us right here in studio, and Brittany, we know you've been following this race pretty closely.
Yeah, Amanda, Carl, and like you just said, Carl, this is one of the few races that did not have a clear front runner going into today, and none of the 3 Republican candidates getting more than 15% of voters from our polls here at News 9. Now, David Hooten, Clark Jolly, and Todd Russ are jockeying for that GOP ticket. Hooten's name may ring a bell as he resigned from being Oklahoma County Clerk after recordings surfaced of him telling employees to get drunk and gamble on a mandatory work trip. He's also accused of sexual harassment by one of the people in that office. Both other candidates have also held positions in the state legislature. Jolly's resume includes being state senator, state secretary of finance, and chairman of the Oklahoma Tax Commission. Russ is currently a state representative and says his time as a CEO of a bank makes him the most qualified for this role. Now, there's just one Democrat throwing their hat in this ring, Charles DeCoon. They'll go up against the winner of tonight's race in November, filling the seat left by Randy Daniel. In the studio, Brittany Toulis, Oklahoma's own News 9.
I believe there's a Libertarian as well, so we're following that race very closely to see what happens there with our state treasurer. State treasurer, too, by the way, they oversee a big budget, $22 billion of state money, and also the 529 college savings plan, among other things.
And we'll see if Todd Russ's job as the CEO will pay off in this race here. So one to watch, certainly. And then this was what we were talking about earlier. James Lankford, the GOP nominee for U.S. Senate, projected winner tonight. Big time.
We understand one of the candidates is speaking right now. Let's go ahead and take a shot from there. And listen in, Senator Lankford.
Issue. We're a nation of immigrants, but we're also a nation of laws, and we should honor those laws. Our nation's in a huge debate right now on a very simple issue. Are children valuable? We believe Every child is valuable. Every child. We don't believe that there are some children that are disposable and there are some children that are valuable. We believe every child is valuable. We believe that child sucking their thumb and kicking their feet in the womb is just as valuable as that child sucking their thumb and kicking their feet in the crib, because that is a child and it's worth speaking out for that child. I have been honored to speak for the issue of life more than any other senator over the last several years, because this is not just my core belief, it's a core belief of who we are. We look at those children and see adults that are in the future, the same as we see that child in the womb. There is no difference between a child in the womb and a child in your arms other than time. There's no other difference in that. And so we're going to continue to out with great affection for every single life. Culturally, we do have another fight, though. There's an issue that's rising up in our culture that we do need to be able to speak out on. I have more and more people that come up to me and will poke me in the chest and say, you work for me and you have to do what I say. I smile at them and I think, it's pretty bold to say the other 4 million Oklahomans don't count, only you count. But I get where they're coming from. But we're distancing ourselves from our most basic, foundational, constitutional principle. The first word of our Constitution is the word we. I don't work for me, I work for we. And there's a big difference in that. For individuals that come and say, I have individual rights, I say that's true. We as a nation are a nation of individual rights. But we are also a nation that believes strongly in we, the people. We have difficult issues we're going to deal with in the future. We have challenges as a nation. We have things we've got to be able to do. And we believe, as conservatives, the principles that we stand for help every community and every neighborhood of every race, of every background. Those conservative values matter. That's why we stand on those values, because we believe it helps every single person. When they're put into practice, opportunity rises. People are able to rise. Families are able to rise. Parents are able to make decisions. Children are able to have opportunities even greater than their parents, because we believe in these basic conservative principles that rise, we the people. I am unashamedly conservative, but I'm also unashamedly passionate about sharing our values and engaging in the issues to win over hearts and minds. Yes, that means most of the time I'm not yelling at people, but it also means I'm always trying to persuade, because I believe these values help, and it will cause our nation to rise. Those are values worth fighting for in the days ahead, and that's what we'll continue to be able to fight for.
Senator Lankford there looking for re-election, and he is now the presumed winner tonight in the Republican primary for U.S. Senate, one of the 2 U.S. Senate seats here in Oklahoma. And those senators, they represent, it doesn't matter where they live, those 2 senators, they represent the entire state.
And here's a look at who could become his opponent in November. There you see James Lankford's numbers, and right now Madison Horn is in the lead right now, and so a crowded field on the Democratic side as well. We'll see how this unfolds. Still very early tonight, but Madison Horn with the lead. There
are 6 Democrat candidates running there for that race. We are following all the races. We hope you'll keep it right here wherever you may be watching us on News 9 as we continue our coverage after this very short break. Back with more in a moment.
Wake up. Laugh. Catch up.
This is a huge impact.
Breaking news.
Engulfed in thick black smoke.
Traffic jams.
Summer showers.
UV alerts. Events.
Everything you need.
From your locally owned station.
News 9 this morning. We got you.
Locally owned means the best in the sky for you.
This rainfall has just been incredible. I-40 westbound down to 1 lane.
With the fastest news helicopter and the most experienced pilot, Jim Gardner.
125 miles an hour, fighting a Depency fire. Extract these people from this car. There's 2 of them right there.
The only street scope.
We can track it mile by mile.
80, 90 miles an hour.
Giving you information you can't get on the ground.
And this tightened up really fast.
Bob Mills, Sky News 9. Only on Oklahoma's own News 9.
Times have changed. People can get their news a lot of different places, but that doesn't always mean the news is accurate.
So many people today feel like they're being cheated, right? They're only hearing one side. There's so much out there, right? And people aren't sure what to believe. And so I think that's our job. That's our job as journalists, to give people all the information.
News 9, we work really hard to make sure that we just put the facts out there, that we're reporting the story as it comes to us.
And you make the choice that you think's right for you and your family.
You gotta know, you're busy and you're trying to make plans. Weather apps are good, but I'm gonna help you fill in the details that they can't. See this? A 40% chance of rain, which means 40% of you will see rain. But which 40%? Winds will be crazy this day, but when and how strong? A fast-moving front could bring some storms. I'll tell you exactly when they'll hit. Check in with me for a weather heads up.
Get warned first with David Payne, the Oklahoma weather expert.
And welcome back to our continuing coverage of primary night right here on News 9 Oklahoma Votes.
We already have a couple of winners very early this evening, and Governor Kevin Stitt has won the GOP bid for re-election with 67% of the vote early on, but this is a projection made by the AP. They're looking at their numbers and their exit polling numbers as well as early voting. So he is the projected winner tonight.
And as long as that stays true, he will go on to the general election in November. As long as you get over 50%. And there's a look at the race for the Democrat primary right now. Joy Hofmeister with 62% of the vote, the current state superintendent of schools, who is now running for governor on the Democrat side. She actually changed her party affiliation.
Yeah, she did. Okay, we're going to talk about this race right here, and this is one we're watching because Markwayne Mullin has the lead right now, but if he doesn't get above 50% on the GOP side, the top two go. So he's at 46%. Our polling showed that he was the clear front runner going into this, but really the race there is for number 2, who can get into next month's or August's runoff election to see if they can make it onto the general in November. So TW Shannon right now sitting there in second place. I think, are we going to go check in now maybe with our crews?
Amy Lankford, or excuse me, Amy Slanchik. She is covering the Senator Lankford's watch party for us. Amy, tell us the latest from there.
Hey, Amanda. Yeah, we're here at Main Event where Senator James Lankford just wrapped up his victory speech about 10 minutes to a crowd of probably about 75 people here at Main Event. A lot of comments he gave tonight included his pro-life position, which he emphasized. He said, "This is not just my core belief, it's a core belief of who we are," presumably talking about Oklahomans as a whole. He also talked about his stance on illegal immigration and then went on to emphasize the first word of the Constitution, which is we. He says, "I don't work for me, I work for we," and also went on to say the people we disagree with are not our enemy that we have to hate, we have to engage. And so if elected in November, of course that's the emphasis now, November 8th, if he defeats the Democrat in November, he'll serve another 6-year term as a U.S. Senator, keeping him in office until 2029, with his new term, of course, beginning in 2023. Back to you.
Amy, thank you so much. Amy Slanchik for us right here in the Metro covering that senator's race. We're also covering the congressional district races. There are going to be 3 basically in our viewing area that we're following, District 5 being one of them.
Stephanie Bice right now the big winner over Sabrina Banks, a real estate agent. Right now, clearly she's in the lead, 71% of the vote, still very early in there, but this is looking like Stephanie Bice is going to win the GOP nomination for re-election there.
She is the incumbent. Alex Cameron, he is following all of the congressional district races for us. Alex, a big night.
It sure is, Amanda and Carl. You know, it's very interesting. May not play out so much tonight, but something to look to in the future. Amanda, you mentioned it earlier that this is the first time that Oklahoma voters are voting with the new redistricting boundaries in place. And certainly District 5 was the one that was most impacted by the new boundaries, with a section of Oklahoma City shifted into District 3. It went from basically kind of a Republican-leaning district to essentially a Republican lock district. Something else, if you haven't noticed, District 5 has been dominated by women as candidates for the last several years. You had Kendra Horn, of course, unseating Steve Russell in 2018, and then Stephanie Bice, who faced a significant challenge from Terry Neese in the Republican primary in 2020, then beating Kendra Horn. And now she is being challenged by another woman. Sabrina Banks is the challenger for her. And Sabrina Banks saying that Congresswoman Bice has not embraced the America First agenda as she would. Bice seeking, again, her second term in office. She says there's a tremendous amount of excitement among Republicans who believe that they are going to regain the majority here in the House come November. And she wants to be part of that, of course. And right now, it's looking like she certainly has a chance to get to the general election. Amanda, Carl?
Alex, thank you. I want to keep you with us, Alex, too. So just stand by. We're going to show everybody District 4 numbers. Now, District 4 numbers, a declared winner has already been named. Tom Cole, the incumbent, he will move on now to the general election in November. District 4, okay, so that's going to include Moore, Norman, and down south. I want to bring Alex Cameron back in, our Washington chief, because Cole has been in this position for quite a long time, Alex.
Yes, he has. And, you know, even in the minority, he has quite a bit of clout here on Capitol Hill as the ranking member of the Important Rules Committee, as the #2 Republican on appropriations. So while he may be criticized, as he was in this race, by his challengers as not being conservative enough, he brings home the bacon, so to speak. And I think people in his district have come to respect what he does and how he operates. And he certainly has the respect of his colleagues here at the Capitol. So not a big surprise. You know, he did get a significant challenge from Mr. Burleson, or I'm sorry, from Mr. Taylor, rather, who has tried to unseat him before. But again, it looks like Tom Cole is going to be in the general election come November, which is again, not a big surprise. Incumbents are tough to unseat in Oklahoma and in most states, and Tom Cole is very well liked. Amanda, Carl?
Alex, we appreciate it, and you're looking at District 3 right there. The numbers, if we could put them up. Frank Lucas now with a pretty good lead, was 63% of the vote very early on. But Wade Burleson, Alex mentioned his name. This was he was hoping to challenge Representative Lucas, basically saying that Lucas has been to Washington too long and he's out of touch, and it's not playing out in Wade's way right now. Alex, Frank Lucas winning big so far. Any surprise there?
No, not really. I mean, again, he has been here for about, 28 years, I think. This would be his 15th full term to be elected to, if he is elected. Wade Burleson did spend a lot of money, raised a fair amount of money. Of all the different challengers, he probably was able to raise the most money, this former Enid pastor, and making the point that, you know, Frank Lucas is part of the D.C. establishment, and that D.C. establishment is what the problem is right now, and looking at, you know, the national debt being $30 trillion, that sort of thing. So again, trying to make the argument that we need fresh blood, we need somebody new who will be tougher, who will disrupt things in D.C. But you know, Frank Lucas is well liked. You know, he's a rancher. He knows his constituents. Obviously, he's been there a long time. So nothing's happened, I think, that you know would cause voters, or at least a large number of them, to be unhappy with him. Again, he doesn't shout and scream like some Republicans may want him to. He's probably the most moderate in the delegation, but he's still very conservative. And ultimately, Oklahomans like people they know, and they know Frank Lucas, so I'm not surprised at the result. Carl, Amanda?
Alex, such good insight
Yeah.
you give us. I'm so glad we have you right there in Washington to help us with that. Appreciate that. If you're wondering too, District 3, that covers such a large part of Oklahoma. It's all of western Oklahoma, and it goes almost all the way to a suburb of Tulsa. So it covers a very large area.
Really interesting what he had to say about redistricting, what that does to districts, especially District 5, now being kind of, what was a stronghold for Republicans, now pretty much a lock.
And for women as well.
Yeah, for women as well. See how that plays out in November.
We'll be back with more in just a moment. We're going to take a look at the very latest when it comes to the Attorney General race. We have the Labor Commissioner race and so much more.
Scott Mitchell just sat down again,
He's
too.
here.
Wake up. Laugh. Catch up.
This is a huge impact.
Breaking news.
Engulfed in thick black smoke.
Traffic jams.
Summer showers.
UV alerts. Events.
Everything you need.
From your locally owned station.
News 9 this morning. We got you.
Locally owned means the best in the sky for you.
This rainfall has just been incredible. I-40 westbound down to 1 lane.
With the fastest news helicopter and the most experienced pilot, Jim Gardner.
125 miles an hour, fighting a dependency fire. Extract these people from this car. There's 2 of them right there.
The only street scope.
We can track it mile by mile.
80, 90 miles an hour.
Giving you information you can't get on the ground.
And this tightened up really fast.
Bob Mills, Sky News 9. Only on Oklahoma's own News 9.
Times have changed. People can get their news a lot of different places, but that doesn't always mean the news is accurate.
So many people today feel like they're being cheated, right? They're only hearing one side. There's so much out there, right? And people aren't sure what to believe. And so I think that's our job. That's our job as journalists, to give people all the information.
News 9, we work really hard to make sure that we just put the facts out there, that we're reporting the story as it comes to us.
And you make the choice that you think's right for you and your family.
You gotta know, you're busy and you're trying to make plans. Weather apps are good, but I'm gonna help you fill in the details that they can't. See this? A 40% chance of rain, which means 40% of you will see rain. But which 40%? Winds will be crazy this day, but when and how strong? A fast-moving front could bring some storms. I'll tell you exactly when they'll hit. Check in with me for a weather heads up.
Get warned first with David Payne, the Oklahoma weather expert.
And welcome back to our live election night coverage. Oklahoma votes, and we are so happy you're joining us as we look at the numbers and also give you the stories behind those numbers as well.
Yeah, we have the Corporation Commissioner numbers there. On the Republican side, Kim David right now in the lead with 42%.
And if we can sound Scott Mitchell's mic, he is our political analyst. And just real quick, tell us who Kim David is for our viewers.
Kim David was the majority leader in the state Senate. She's been there a long time, a veteran. She was a leader in the state Senate and has been active on energy issues, and this is what they do, okay? Railroads and energy and renewables, and listen, that's a tough job. That is the hardest working bunch of people in politics, are corporation commissioners. It ain't no easy deal.
Yeah, okay, so that's no surprise there is what you're saying.
No.
Okay.
So we have about 31% of the precincts reporting there, 33% of the precincts reporting here. Labor Commissioner and Leslie Osborne right now in the lead with 49% of the votes. She's been advertising pretty heavily in recent days as well.
What has she been doing in her ads again? I'm just joking. She's been firing a gun.
She fires a gun.
A big gun, so, you know.
Well, she's an outsider.
Yeah.
And listen, she's also the former A&B chief over in the House of Representatives, and she's done a great job as Labor Commissioner. What she'll be looking for, the only 2 races I've seen this close tonight, she's going to finish first in this tonight. The question is, will she get 50% plus 1 to avoid a runoff?
She is so close right now.
What do you think? You think it's going to happen for her?
I don't know. So is that a low 49%, or is that close to 50? I'd have to do math, and you know.
Well,
we don't want to confuse people.
The night is still young, so we will follow that one. We're following a lot of other races too, including a very heated Attorney General race here in Oklahoma. Right now, the latest numbers showing that Drummond has 53% of the votes to John O'Connor's 47%, with 35% of the precincts reporting.
This race, just with these numbers in, I know it's early, but it has tightened up from the last time we saw it. We have Scott here, so my feeling going in after looking at News 9 polling was that Drummond was going to pull away. He was going to get above 50, and he was going to win no problem here.
Yeah, that's not exactly what the numbers look like, not on the trend. By the way, in A.G. O'Connor's message a while ago, did that sound like a little bit of an olive branch to the tribes? I mean, it was an interesting statement. It was very, we could see if we can work together. It was, it's not surprising, but it was unique to hear. And I thought, man, but that's a story tomorrow.
He has been, seriously making a run here the last couple of days. I mean, trying to close this gap with Gettner Drummond. And what's funny is when Gettner Drummond ran against Mike Hunter, remember the early numbers there? I mean, he was way ahead of Mike Hunter. Mike Hunter didn't really engage, and then when he finally did, he did it kind of like basically in time, barely, to get past Gettner Drummond.
He went all the way last time. I mean, he was negative from A1, right? This year he softened up as he got to the end. This is like old time politics.
Yeah.
Make yourself known, hit hard, and then ease up as you go into
Gettner Drummond.
Right. He's done the better job this time.
But this is a pretty lively debate among these two.
It was the best debate. It was the best debate of all of them.
And O'Connor's trying to pay Drummond as a never Trumper, and then O'Connor won't give. He wants to chop off his hand instead of giving $5 to Joe Biden. That's what I remember.
Do you think that? Yeah. Do you think that hurt Drummond, where he gave money, and he said it was a mistake, and they took the money back, the $1,000 donation to Biden? Is that going to hurt him?
Who knows? I mean, you could also wonder about the coattails of the governor, right? Because the governor's coattails help or hurt? I mean, that's something we'll be talking about in November, maybe December, over by the fire, right?
Because John O'Connor was appointed by Governor Stitt. He currently holds that position right there. Barry Mangold happens to be in downtown Oklahoma City, Forest, following John O'Connor's watch party. Let's check in with Barry right now if he's available. Barry?
Yeah, guys, in just the last couple minutes recently, the Associated Press has called Governor Stitt as the winner of the Republican primary. And I say that even though we're talking about the Attorney General's race, because both Stitt and O'Connor are hosting their watch parties here. And then we've been looking around and we have not been able to find Stitt or O'Connor recently, but we are expecting them to speak at this podium here. But we do want to give you guys an idea of just what this place looks like right now, because this has filled up. They've actually just expanded the second half of the room to open up for seating. So yeah, a lot of supporters, a lot of energy in this room. There was no definitive moment when people found out that the AP had called for Stitt. It's just kind of it looks like a party in here, So but earlier today, when at the beginning of the day, we did watch O'Connor vote with his wife up in Tulsa, his hometown. And just a reminder, this is the first time O'Connor has run for a statewide office, and so this is going to be. We'll see how this plays out. I'm looking at the Attorney General results right now, and it's certainly not. It's close, but right now Gettner Drummond is leading John O'Connor slightly by about 8,000 votes. So we'll see if we can get either of them to make a comment on these results that are coming in. But yeah, we did. We'll see how it all works. But I know that one hot button issue that we've talked to O'Connor about earlier today was abortion, because of course on Friday the Supreme Court ruled to overturn Roe versus Wade, and so we asked O'Connor about that and about creating exceptions for rape and incest. Take a listen.
The same people who would be horrified at the abortion of a giraffe, a baby giraffe, are sitting out there protesting to be able to abort a baby human being. And I feel like we could find a more elegant solution to a crisis pregnancy than taking another life.
And that soundbite was taken about 4 hours ago. Again, we haven't seen O'Connor or Stitt for a little while now. We're going to be tracking them down. As soon as one gets on the podium, we'll let you know. We'll bring it to you live. For now, reporting in OKC, Barry Mangold, Oklahoma's Own, News 9.
All right, that is turning into a close race. We turn our attention to one that's not very close tonight, and that's the run for governor on the GOP side, and Kevin Stitt, the winner tonight, big time. We have our political analyst, Scott Mitchell, here, and you were talking about the governor's coattails and just how strong the governor is. Well, what are your thoughts tonight on how the votes are shaking out? Is Governor Kevin Stitt still as popular as people believe he once was?
Down a little bit. I mean, he's taken some hits, but they look at that number. Republicans are there for him. He's going to be, his coattails right now are not working. Okay, when you look at the O'Connor race, they're working better than Jim Inhofe's, but nonetheless, I mean, coattails sometimes are just overrated. When we get in that superintendent race, we'll have some understanding about Kevin Stitt's coattails. But right now, he's headed for a race with Kendra Horn in November, and that'll be a barn burner.
With Kinder Horner, with Joy
Hofmeister.
I'm sorry, with Joy Hofmeister.
Sure.
The idea, the Kevin Stitt, he's got a lot of money, but he had to spend a lot of money kind of early because he was getting, kind of bashed with ads, and he had to come out and respond
you flex,
to that.
right? You have to flex back on it. Like
and so some of his war chest might be gone from that. Joy Hofmeister is also considerably less than Stitt so far, but if she makes it to the general, how big of an opponent will she be for the governor?
Well, she'll be formidable, but she's also going to have to do something that no Democrat's been able to do for a very, very long time, all right, in a very, very red state. So she's going to have some sort of combination of support from the folks who are unhappy about the way the tribal relations have been, and Democrats would have to show up at the polls. Teachers would have to show up in the polls. If teachers are upset with the governor, then they're going to have to. Right now, to me, November looks like a turnout race. And what happens on the national front also has impact on that, right? So right now, the best thing Oklahoma Republicans have going for them is Joe Biden's approval rating. So if those sorts of things change, that changes the way the calculus for November.
Her switching her party is how much is that going to help Joy Hofmeister come November?
Oh, that's still to be determined. I mean, some of the exit polling, some of the pollsters will take a look at that. I wanted to see how Democrats were going to accept her. There'll be people talking tomorrow morning saying, well, 62%. I mean, Connie Johnson's been around the corner before, okay? She's run for governor. She's former state senator. So she's always campaigns very hard, and a lot of Democrats love her. So I'm not sure that this is the litmus test of just how popular Joy is with Democrats.
Because she switched her party, and she said, quote, Kevin Stitt has hijacked the Republican Party here in Oklahoma. She switches now to Democrat, and it looks like she may win tonight. 44% of the precincts are reporting, so still a little ways to go. Still a chance for Connie Johnson to get a few more votes, but we will see where that goes tonight. You also mentioned the race for what we were talking about, state superintendent. I don't know if we have a chance to pull that up, but if we do, that would be interesting one to take a look at. State superintendent race, that is a very interesting one to watch. Right now, Ryan Walters with the lead, 41% of the votes for him. Dr. April Grace coming in next. Dr. John Cox at 25%, and William Crozier with 4% of the votes.
Ryan Walters, Secretary of Education, appointed by Kevin Stitt.
Stitt.
Well, I mean, it's early. It's obviously early, but does that surprise you right now?
Yes, he's performing better. But also, I got to tell you, the Shepard and the folks over there were saying this is so early. People didn't really start looking at this race until recently. Okay.
Really? Okay.
So,
because the early polling numbers were, I don't think
low
they had
teens.
Ryan. Okay.
No, Walters was third in our poll, done for about a week ago.
So he's
Cox
overperforming.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Based upon what Shepard was saying. So that would indicate the governor's coattails are strong.
Well, I mean,
that is a race we're going to be watching very closely. Dr. April Grace, she is the superintendent at Shawnee Public Schools, and then you have Dr. John Cox, who is a superintendent, I believe, for Peg School District, a very small rural district.
Right. Former Democrat, he switched over.
That's right.
To be a Republican because a lot of people have done that, right?
Right. Yeah, we've seen it.
On the issue of school vouchers, that was one that Walters obviously wants, and his opponents do not.
Exactly. Okay, so you know the old analogy about an iceberg. All right, this is the iceberg race. There's so many things happening under the surface. We don't have time to go into the theater and drama, but it's there.
You heard it from our political analyst right there. We are watching all the big races for you. As soon as we take this short break, we're going to come back with a lot of the latest numbers for you when it comes to the polls.
Yeah, we'll be right back.
Wake up. Laugh. Catch up.
This is a huge impact.
Breaking news.
Engulfed in thick black smoke.
Traffic jams.
Summer showers.
UV alerts. Events.
Everything you need.
From your locally owned station.
News 9 this morning. We got you.
Locally owned means the best in the sky for you.
This rainfall has just been incredible. I-40 westbound down to one lane.
With the fastest news helicopter and the most experienced pilot, Jim Gardner.
125 miles an hour fighting a Depency fire. Extract these people from this car. There's two of them right there.
The only street scope.
We can track it mile by mile.
80, 90 miles an hour.
Giving you information you can't get on the ground.
And this tightened up really fast.
Bob Mills, Sky News 9. Only on Oklahoma's own News 9.
Times have changed. People can get their news a lot of different places, but that doesn't always mean the news is accurate.
So many people today feel like they're being cheated, right? They're only hearing one side. There's so much out there, right? And people aren't sure what to believe. And so I think that's our job. That's our job as journalists, to give people all the information.
News 9, we work really hard to make sure that we just put the facts out there, that we're reporting the story as it comes to us.
And you make the choice that you think's right for you and your family.
You gotta know, you're busy and you're trying to make plans. Weather apps are good, but I'm gonna help you fill in the details that they can't. See this? A 40% chance of rain, which means 40% of you will see rain. But which 40%? Winds will be crazy this day, but when and how strong? A fast-moving front could bring some storms. I'll tell you exactly when they'll hit. Check in with me for a weather heads up.
Get warned first with David Payne, the Oklahoma weather expert.
It is election night here in Oklahoma, and the numbers are really starting to pour in right now, with 51% of the precincts reporting.
This is for Senator Jim Inhofe's seat. Markwayne Mullin with the lead. The GOP side, if he gets over 50%, he will advance the November election. If it's just under 50, the top two go. So right now, Markwayne Mullin, number one, and T.W. Shannon at second place there with 16% of the vote.
This is a really interesting one. Felice Romero joins us live tonight. She's in Tulsa at Markwayne Mullin's watch party. Felice, how's it going there?
The watch party started about an hour ago, and supporters are starting to pour in. They just had the opening ceremony, starting with a prayer and then the national anthem. I'm going to have my photographer pan the camera for you all. Now, as you can see, the crowd is seated, eating, and they do have those early numbers coming up, and it has Markwayne Mullin ahead with a pretty good lead, and then T.W. Shannon right behind that. But the crowd pretty happy with these early numbers. Now, they do say they are aware there is a lot of candidates and they are ready for a long night. But of course, I spoke with the candidate earlier and he says he's feeling pretty good. Now that's going to do it for me out here in Tulsa. Reporting live, Felice Romero, Oklahoma's own News 9.
Well, already we do have some winners on the night projected. James Lankford winning easy, and he is the winner according to the Associated Press.
He was elected back to the U.S. Senate back in 2014, so he will be moving on to the general election for the Republicans. As for the Democrats, this is a little bit more crowded right now. Madison Horn has 34% of the votes, and Jason Bollinger, he is coming in next with 18%. Again, you have to have above 50% to avoid a runoff, to not have to have one of those.
And here's the race for governor on the GOP side. Kevin Stitt winning easy, the projected winner, and that happened a while ago. He was the projected winner according to the Associated Press. So Kevin Stitt moves on to November, and he will face the winner here. And this is not decided. Joy Hofmeister right now in the lead over former legislator Connie Johnson.
Attorney General is another one that we are watching very closely. I want to show you the latest numbers as they're coming into us. 54% of the precincts reporting right now. 53% of the votes going to Drummond, with John O'Connor getting 47%, but this is still early on and it's pretty close.
This is a tight race, and it's going to be a long night here. There are early polls showing that Drummond was going to win this thing easy. That's not the case right now. A very, very close race between Drummond and O'Connor.
Close look at the jail proposition right now. It's looking like we will get a new jail in Oklahoma County. Still early on, though. We're keeping an eye on the very latest numbers. Keep it here on News 9. Go over to news9.com for the very latest as well.
Wake up. Laugh. Catch up.
This is a huge impact.
Breaking news.
Engulfed in thick black smoke.
Traffic jams.
Summer showers.
UV alerts. Events.
Everything you need.
From your locally owned station.
News 9 this morning. We got you.
Locally owned means the best in the sky for you.
This rainfall has just been incredible. I-40 westbound down to one lane.
With the fastest news helicopter and the most experienced pilot, Jim Gardner.
125 miles an hour fighting a Depency fire. Extract these people from this car. There's two of them right there.
The only street scope.
We can track it mile by mile.
80, 90 miles an hour.
Giving you information you can't get on the ground.
And this tightened up really fast.
Bob Mills, Sky News 9. Only on Oklahoma's own News 9.
Times have changed. People can get their news a lot of different places, but that doesn't always mean the news is accurate.
So many people today feel like they're being cheated, right? They're only hearing one side. There's so much out there, right? And people aren't sure what to believe. And so I think that's our job. That's our job as journalists, to give people all the information.
News 9, we work really hard to make sure that we just put the facts out there, that we're reporting the story as it comes to us.
And you make the choice that you think's right for you and your family.
You gotta know, you're busy and you're trying to make plans. Weather apps are good, but I'm gonna help you fill in the details that they can't. See this? A 40% chance of rain, which means 40% of you will see rain. But which 40%? Winds will be crazy this day, but when and how strong? A fast-moving front could bring some storms. I'll tell you exactly when they'll hit. Check in with me for a weather heads up.
Get warned first with David Payne, the Oklahoma weather expert.
Thanks for watching our Oklahoma Votes coverage, as Election Day is now election night here in Oklahoma, and we are watching the top races. We have crews live all across the state tonight at watch parties.
Yeah, and now the results are coming in. We already do have some winners declared and some races that really have tightened up. This one not tight, but it kind of is when you consider that if Markwayne Mullin doesn't get over 50%, top two advance. And it's still the race for second is the race here for the U.S. Senate seat that Jim Inhofe will leave come next year. So Markwayne Mullin the lead right now. He's spent a lot of money. He has also loaned his own campaign $1 million.
He sure has.
He got on the air quickly, had those ads up really quickly. They're still airing, and it's been effective so far. But again, if he doesn't get over 50%, second place is going with him, and that's T.W. Shannon at the moment right now.
He'll be facing one of the challengers come the August 23rd runoff, I believe.
August 23rd is the runoff.
August 23rd runoff for the two. If we can see on, let's see what we want to take next. Just seeing if we have.
We might bounce out to Felice
Romero. Ready, okay. Just wanted to make sure that she was ready. Felice Romero has been at Markwayne Mullin's watch party. And Felice, give us an update from there.
The polls closed an hour ago, and like you all said, Markwayne Mullin taking that lead, at least for right now. His watch party filling up within the last hour. I'm going to step out of the frame and let my photographer get a look in for you all. Now, as you can see, people are eating, they're conversing with the candidate, and they do have those early numbers up on the TV screens. Now, they open the ceremony with a family prayer and then the national anthem, but overall, very, very happy supporters here as he has taken that early lead. But, you know, I did catch up with the candidate earlier, and he said the night is still young, and of course they are ready for a runoff if it comes to that. For now, reporting live in Tulsa, Felice Romero, Oklahoma's own News 9.
Felice, thank you for that. Of course, we're watching that very closely. Now, Markwayne Mullin, he will be vacating his current seat. It happens to be, he's been in this seat. It's his 5th House term right now in District 2 for Oklahoma. Let's take a look at the U.S. House District 2 and just see how the people who are wanting to take over his seat are doing right now. This is a very crowded race. 83% of the precincts are reporting. Here's a look at those numbers. Avery Frick's 15% of the votes right now, and Josh Burkeen coming in with 14%. So very, very close. That will go on to a runoff for sure.
Okay, if you're looking at this count, who are these guys? Well, it's because this is Eastern Oklahoma, so you haven't seen any of their ads over here. Scott knows these guys. Scott Mitchell, our political analyst. And any surprise here? What do you think?
The fact that there's 75 people running this thing, that's the first surprise. Avery Frick's House member, Josh Burkeen, former Senate member, both active in their caucuses over the years. Josh Burkeen, very conservative, okay, as is Avery Frick's. This is to be replacing Congressman Mullin. And so, as you can see, at 15, if you lead by 15 and 14, just throw out all the results. That will be one barn burner of a runoff, and there'll be no favorites. I mean, there are mathematical ways of figuring how somebody's going to win in a runoff, but that's not one of them.
Right,
Okay.
right. Okay, so that's one thing that we're watching in the state. Here that we're really focused on too, because it affects everybody in Oklahoma, is the U.S. Senate seat, of course, the one being vacated by Senator Inhofe, his unexpired term. Colby Thielen, he has been covering the T.W. Shannon camp for us and their campaign and their watch party tonight. Let's go out to Colby live in Northwest Oklahoma City.
Hey, good evening, guys. So far, the energy here has actually been pretty high. It's hard to tell if it's the music, but most people are just conversing, checking in on their phones every now and again, of course, checking in on the screen where News 9 is playing currently. But it seems to be a good mood so far this evening. A lot of folks seem to believe potentially they'll be here for the long haul tonight, or perhaps counting on that runoff election on August 23rd. Now, the one person that we haven't seen in here inside the theater here, of course, we're at the Will Rogers Theater tonight. One person we haven't seen since about 7 o'clock is T.W. Shannon himself. We did speak with him earlier, and he said that he felt excited and that he felt confident. He believes that their campaign worked hard, and they hope that they were able to get their message out throughout the course of this campaign. He said he really relied on 3 C's, those 3 C's being Christianity, capitalism, and the Constitution. When I asked him if he was nervous earlier tonight, it sounds that he's relying on the first C to get him through. Here's what he said.
We need to unleash American energy. We need to unleash the power of the private sector, and we need to remove the barriers and the regulation that's crippling so many businesses.
Now, I believe I actually tossed the wrong thought there, but what he was saying to us earlier is that it was really his faith. He's a man of faith. He's hoping that's going to get him through tonight. He said that he's really relying on God, who he believes raises up leaders and tears them down. So that's where his confidence is in. He says that he's not nervous. He wasn't nervous ahead of tonight. He said as long as you put the work in, you just got to sit back and wait for the results to come in. That's what so many folks are doing here. Of course, we'll be following along. It looks at this point as if they're hoping that potentially he'll get in that second spot and take it to an August 23rd primary. We're live on the northwest side. Colby Thielen, Oklahoma's own, News 9.
He has 16% of the votes right now, T.W. Shannon. T.W. Shannon, a Lawton native and a member of the Chickasaw Nation. He was Speaker in the House back in, I believe, 2013.
First African-American Speaker of the House.
And there's a look at the very latest numbers.
Scott, T.W. Shannon, you said he's got name recognition across Oklahoma.
Right.
Where Markwayne Mullin may not be known in western Oklahoma, T.W. Shannon is. This is, if it is those two, what's that race going to look like?
Well, the Speaker Shannon's got a long way to go. Okay? Do you want to get into my math?
Well, you talk about this.
Explain it to us.
Okay. Now, you're not talking to a math major here. Okay, this is Dr. Keith Gaddy. All right, learning from him over the years. In a primary, if you get 40% plus 5, I don't know why he doesn't say 45 yet. I'm just anticipating. 40% plus 5 in a primary, if there's a runoff, you have a 90% chance of winning. Now, that's according to Dr. Keith Gaddy at the University of Oklahoma, and he's always right.
Is that a 40%, and then the plus 5 is you're up by at least 5%?
I don't have any. He's an academic, and he's a math guy, too.
Keith Gaddy is too smart.
Keith says this works.
He knows this stuff. You talk about someone who's redistricting and stuff like that. I mean, that is the guy there.
Do not doubt Keith Gaddy.
No, absolutely not. No, he's a smart guy. Oh, okay, so, and then should we talk about the governor's race? Because I think this is shaping up. If the results kind of stay where they are, you're saying barn burner in November with Kevin Stitt, who won tonight, and Joy Hofmeister, who is winning big so far.
That's right. Kendra Horn's going to be in the U.S. Senate race. I had her in the governor's race a few minutes ago. Yeah. Okay, wrong. All right, so it will be a head-to-head battle over policy, over culture, and I'm going to tell you the one issue that's going to be leading the way is going to be the recent Supreme Court ruling on Roe versus Wade. That will be a gigantic issue. Also, how COVID was handled. Also, school choice. Okay, that iceberg we were talking about. Okay, that's part of it.
Okay, so
Joy Hofmeister, she really clashed with Governor Stitt, especially I think just starting when the COVID, all those COVID mandates, restrictions and mandates. They had completely opposite opinions on what should be done.
So that's going to, that will play out. I mean, it's education, it's culture, it's economics. It's going to be they'll define each other, and it will not be nice.
The school choice issue, I'm surprised because that didn't go anywhere. That was the governor's plan. He had Republicans saying we aren't going to put it to a vote at the Capitol. you think that that's going to be something that he's campaigning on out there?
It's going to be. Well, listen, do you know what that has happened in Oklahoma? Is so many of these races don't even have candidates saying about, hey, I approve this message. It's all dark money, okay? Yeah. John Eccles has a stroke every time he talks about dark money. I mean, it has become such an intricate part of races, and they can say anything, and they do, and that's how these races are now defined.
So, but we found out the governor was having to fight back against dark money already in this race.
Sure, and he had dark money too.
Yeah.
And so did you see the ads against Mark McBride, Anthony Moore, Rhonda Bacon's dark money? Okay, I mean, there were stories about what was going on behind the scenes with, that particular campaign. It's become the story.
Yeah.
And by the way, most of the dark money stuff, you can't believe it as far as you can throw it. Okay? So, but there will be so much dark money in that race. You just hold on. Okay? Just get yourself ready.
Yeah.
It's going to get interesting. Okay. It already is. About 67% of the precincts are reporting right now. We're going to get a check on some of the other big races, including the big proposition that is being voted on, the jail bond. Will Oklahoma County get a new jail? We're going to take a really quick break. Back with more after this.
Wake up. Laugh. Catch up.
This is a huge impact.
Breaking news.
Engulfed in thick black smoke.
Traffic jams.
Summer showers.
UV alerts. Events.
Everything you need.
From your locally owned station.
News 9 this morning. We got you.
Locally owned means the best in the sky for you.
This rainfall has just been incredible. I-40 westbound down to 1 lane.
With the fastest news helicopter and the most experienced pilot, Jim Gardner.
125 miles an hour, fighting a Depency fire. Extract these people from this car. There's 2 of them right there.
The only street scope.
We can track it mile by mile.
80, 90 miles an hour.
Giving you information you can't get on the ground.
And this tightened up really fast.
Bob Mills, Sky News 9. Only on Oklahoma's own News 9.
Times have changed. People can get their news a lot of different places, but that doesn't always mean the news is accurate.
So many people today feel like they're being cheated, right? They're only hearing one side. There's so much out there, right? And people aren't sure what to believe. And so I think that's our job. That's our job as journalists, to give people all the information.
News 9, we work really hard to make sure that we just put the facts out there, that we're reporting the story as it comes to us.
And you make the choice that you think's right for you and your family.
You gotta know, you're busy and you're trying to make plans. Weather apps are good, but I'm gonna help you fill in the details that they can't. See this? A 40% chance of rain, which means 40% of you will see rain. But which 40%? Winds will be crazy this day, but when and how strong? A fast-moving front could bring some storms. I'll tell you exactly when they'll hit. Check in with me for a weather heads up.
Get warned first with David Payne, the Oklahoma weather expert.
We are so glad you're watching with us tonight. Welcome back to our election night coverage.
Yeah, election results are coming in. Governor Kevin Stitt already declared the winner on the GOP side in the race for governor. He won big time, and it wasn't very close. And on the Democratic side, that race still going on. 69% of the precincts reporting, but Joy Hofmeister, the state superintendent, with the lead right now over former legislator Connie Johnson. Really interesting too with Joy Hofmeister, because less than a year ago she was a Republican, and then she switched over to the Democrat Party so she could run against Governor Stitt for this next term. So these watch parties are slowly, in some places, turning to parties, celebration parties. Yes. And Barry Mangold is at one of those right now for the governor. He's in downtown Oklahoma City. Barry.
Yeah, Carl, Amanda, for the past for a while, ever since this race was called by the Associated Press in Stitt's favor, we have been looking at this empty podium right here. We have gotten a look at candidate and Congresswoman Stephanie Bice as well, but John O'Connor and Governor Stitt have not been seen. We've been looking for him, haven't seen him just yet. Of course, while Stitt's race has been called, O'Connor's is a different story. We'll get to that in just a little bit. But earlier today, we were in Oklahoma City with Governor Stitt as he voted this morning with his family. And of course, this is Governor Stitt's re-election campaign. He's going for his second term, and it's been quite a couple of years for him. He's had the McGirt ruling come down, and he's certainly taken a stance of trying to have Congress to settle that or to find a solution for that. And I know, it's been quite a time, but I know that earlier today, actually about 4 hours ago, Governor Stitt took questions from reporters, and this is the vision generally that he laid out for Oklahomans. Take a listen.
I'm confident that Oklahomans love the direction that we're going. They don't want to move back to a Biden policy, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi. They love the freedoms and keeping our schools open, and they love the top 10. We've got the largest savings account we've ever had, and so I'm really excited.
And so there you heard Governor Stitt saying he plans to continue his pro-business administration and his agenda that he's had in office so far. Again, that was him about 4 hours ago. We haven't heard or seen him in the past several hours. Last I saw, I think it was about 5 o'clock, we saw security kind of escort him through one of the back doors behind me, but John O'Connor's also hard to find or not to be found at this moment. We will certainly let you know as soon as someone takes the podium here, and we'll have more on that Attorney General's race coming up. Back to you guys.
We're also waiting, actually, for Joy Hofmeister to potentially be taking the podium. Augusta McDonald is at her watch party right now, so as soon as she talks, we will bring that to you live. Let's take a live look right now at the latest numbers coming in. This is going to be on the Democrat side for the primary. Joy Hofmeister right now with 61% of the votes and just about 70% of the precincts reporting right now when it comes to the primary, the governor and the Democrat ticket for that race.
We have a couple of pretty close races right now to talk about, and one is for
look at that.
State Attorney General. That one is the numbers there just keep tightening. And okay, so this was a race, and we're looking at our own polling for about a week ago, getting Drummond with like a 28-point lead over John O'Connor, and it looked like it was going to be decided. No problem, but it has certainly tightened up. O'Connor in the past week has been putting ads out there. He has been putting his face out there. He has been campaigning hard, closing this gap, and it's worked. Will it be enough? We're not sure, but that is a lot closer number than I think a lot of us forecast after seeing those early numbers, those early polling numbers that we had last week.
And if I'm not mistaken, there is no Democratic challenger for them, and so one of them, as long as they get above 50%, will move on to the general election. There is a Libertarian from War Acres, Linda Steele, I believe. Yes.
You're right.
And so they would face her in the general election. So this is a really big race for Republicans as they look to win that seat.
So both these guys are out of Tulsa, right? I mean, Gettner Drummond's a Tulsa attorney. I believe that O'Connor is too. Let's go back out to Barry because Barry's that kind of part of this. It's a celebration party for the governor, but he's having it with John O'Connor, and so still on pins and needles on the AG side. Let's bring in Barry. Go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, Amanda, Carl, we just spoke a couple minutes ago about the situation with Governor Stitt having the race called in his favor already. Well, it is a different situation for the Attorney General's race. Right now, I'm looking at results that show Gettner Drummond just about 11,000 votes ahead of John O'Connor. Neither O'Connor or Stitt have been seen here at this watch party for over an hour at this point. We are seeing that the only campaign sign on stage, it was an interesting moment that they put up the Stitt sign, then took it off and put up the Stephanie Bice sign. I have no idea if that's a sign of when we may hear from Governor Stitt, but I know I saw candidate and Congresswoman Stephanie Bice out here. So we'll see exactly when we hear from the governor and his presumed victory speech about his this race being called. But like I said, it's a very different story for his for the Attorney General that he appointed last year following the resignation of Mike Hunter, that being of course John O'Connor. It's John O'Connor's first time running for a statewide office, and this would be a full term, or an opportunity for him to serve a full term, with McGirt and with as one of the hot button issues for the Attorney General's office, as well as abortion regulation. John O'Connor has been a very loud and very proud conservative. He is marketed and campaigned on being the most conservative candidate in this race. We've been following Drummond's campaign from Tulsa. We'll see how this pans out. I know that last 4 years ago, this election came down to just a couple hundred votes, less than 1,000 votes. It was a very close race, and it seems that we're in that range again. And just behind me right now, we have someone speaking. Let's listen in, if we have the mic set up.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming out tonight. First of all, my name is Glenn Mulready. I am your Oklahoma Insurance Commissioner. Can you guys hear me? All right. I'm hearing it echo through. Hello? Hello. Okay. Eat the mic. So thank you all for coming out tonight. First of all, it'll be a great night for us here as Republicans and leaders in this state. It is my great privilege to have the opportunity to introduce a good friend of mine, somebody that I served with in the state legislature for a number of years. And I'm telling you, Stephanie Bice never shied away from hard fights and from battling.
Looks like she may be introducing Stephanie Bice, and she is the presumed winner for is it Congressional District 5, I believe. Let's go ahead and see if she comes on stage. If she does, we'll listen in. If not, we can give you some more numbers.
Yeah, Stephanie Bice winning in 2020, and then winning at least re-election on the GOP side, makes it to November, and let's hear from Representative Stephanie Bice.
Good evening. This is a little bit of a different race than the last one that we experienced, isn't it? Well, first of all, it is a great honor to once again be the Republican nominee for the 5th Congressional District here in Oklahoma. I want to first start out by thanking a few folks. Certainly at the top of that list is my family. I would not be standing before you as a member of Congress if it weren't for my incredible husband and my fabulous daughters who have stood beside me during some very difficult times over the last couple of years as we made the decision to run for Congress. So first and foremost, thank you to my family. I have extended family here, my parents, my aunts and uncles, siblings, and I'm just honored to have them here tonight. So round of applause for the family if we can. And then certainly, I would not be where I am today without an incredible staff, a campaign staff and an official staff that put in the long, hard hours to make sure that I represent all of the constituents of the 5th District so well. So to my staff, who many of are here this evening, thank you from the bottom of my heart for making the sacrifice, for joining Team Bice, for being a part of what has become an incredible organization. I am truly, truly blessed. Thank you. I want to start out just to give you a couple of tidbits because I think, it's a great time to be a Republican right now. There's a lot happening, a lot of really good things happening. 2022 is going to be a great year for Republicans. But we must keep up the momentum and send a message to Joe Biden that America opposes the far left agenda that is being pushed across this country right now. As you all know, I flipped this seat from Democrat to Republican in 2020. And thank you. And we must hold this seat and ensure that this district continues to be represented. But also, we need to send a message across the country that Republicans are going to take charge again. We are going to right the ship. I hear from so many of my constituents about the challenges they're facing right now. We have an inflation crisis, we have a border crisis, we have an energy crisis. And the Democrats are not interested in addressing any of those. So it's time for Republicans to take charge, take back the House, and right the ship for the future of this generation and the generations to come. I am honored to be your congresswoman for the 5th District, and it is a great honor tonight to be renominated, to continue the fight, to fight for our conservative values. But the fight's not over tonight. This fight will go to November, and I need everyone's support as we move to the general election this fall. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the support, and let's take back the House.
Stephanie Bice right there being, I guess, reelected for the Republican nominee for the 5th District, Congressional District. She has been serving in this position since 2021. Before that, she was an Oklahoma State Senator as well.
She moves on to November. Okay. Another big vote on the night, not with candidates, but the issue of the jail. Is there going to be a new jail in Oklahoma County? And right now the numbers say yes.
We are watching that. Now the margin's closing a little bit. Right now only 27% of precincts reporting. 59% though say yes, the county desperately needs a new jail. Let's go ahead and put $260 million in a bond issue toward the construction of that.
Political analyst Scott Mitchell is here. And Scott, you're looking at these numbers and you're like, I'm kind of surprised the yes isn't higher.
I really am, because, but I got to tell you, the media, in terms of where this story is today, just sort of discovered it in the last 48 hours. This has been a long-standing problem. The building is bad. It's end of its life, and we cannot. The thing that's been happening, that virtually every group that works in behavioral health as well as corrections, prison reformers, Jason Dunnington on Sunday, who worked on 780 and those, he said, we have got to do something. You cannot manage a building that does not lend itself to taking care of people. And that building, there's somebody dying in it all the time. And so this was sort of like the thing that they didn't do in the campaign. I didn't think well was, what if you don't do it?
Well, Commissioner Mullin said there is no plan B. We do not have a plan B. But then some opposition did come out against putting the money toward that. They said maybe we should put the money toward more mental health services out there. And is it really just going to be $260 million, or are we going to start inching that up?
Yeah, and I mean, I think the big thing here was that there's no tax increase on this. This is an existing bond. So that existing bond just keeps going.
Precisely.
With this bond, I think when you're asking taxpayers to pony up more for a jail, that's a tough argument.
Over the years, they've done polling. A tax increase would have been a no.
Hold that thought, buddy, because Joy Hofmeister, running for the Democratic nominee for governor, is speaking. Let's listen in.
So many volunteers, so many Oklahomans who have said, we are ready for change. And I have to first say my thanks to Connie Johnson, who has been a tremendous leader in this state for many years, and I admire her leadership and her campaign. And as we think about what all of these people here gathered tonight represent, hours and hours of volunteering and the staff, my husband Jerry, my family who's behind me, who have been here every step of the way. This is a day that I am truly humbled to say I am so proud to be the Democratic nominee for governor of Oklahoma. So we have a lot of work to do, and it is a time where we get back to those Oklahoma values that, you know, Jerry and I raised our kids around, you know, faith and family and hard work and getting things done. This is a time where we are really excited to see a focus, not on party, not on self-dealing like Governor Stitt, not on cronyism, but on people, on Oklahoma families and communities, no matter where they live. And it is a time where we will listen to people who are saying, we need to have world-class schools. We need to have access to quality, affordable health care, and we need good jobs. So what I will pledge to you tonight is that I will work my heart out and I will fight like hell for this state and the future of Oklahoma, and I need you to help me do that, and we will be a team with momentum, and it is rolling, and it will sustain us all the way to November, and I am ready to get to work. Who's ready? Governor Stitt said he would run this state like a business. And by his own standards, that business of Oklahoma is failing. Oklahoma belongs to you. That's right. And Oklahoma is a state where our kids deserve better. Our families deserve more. And our businesses and small businesses and mid-sized businesses should be able to thrive. But we have got to get back to those common sense Oklahoma values of having respect for one another. Where Governor Stitt has been sowing chaos and division, it's time to come together, unite, and focus on real solutions. Oklahoma doesn't belong to one party or one politician. Again, this state belongs to you, and you have a place. You have a place on our team, and I am so excited to have the focus be on moving forward. It is going to take all of us working together, so we are ready to turn the state back to where the people matter and you matter, and it's a 4-month sprint to November. And here we go. Are you ready? Yeah! All right. Well, let's take this energy and let's go and let's represent all Oklahomans. Thank you.
Joy Hofmeister there giving a victory speech, even though not all the votes have been counted. 77% of the precincts reporting, so enough have been counted for her to feel confident she will be the Democratic nominee come November to run against Governor Kevin Stitt. We also should mention Independent is going to be running Irvin Yen. In 2014, he was a member of the Oklahoma State Senate for 4 years. And last year he changed his party affiliation.
To Independent?
Yeah.
He'll be a formidable person to be heard from in that campaign. There's the secret tonight is watch Dr. Yen. He will make his presence known.
Okay.
Why do you say that?
Yeah. Well, he was as a Republican member of the legislature, he was very concerned about where the state was going in vaccination levels. Okay.
Right.
And he was taken out, basically, a lot of people agree, that by folks who are the so-called anti-vaxxers, personal choice folks. All right. So he has been very, very visible during COVID, and he's had great disagreements with the governor, and he is a respected person who will figure out a way to make an impact on this race. He'll be heard.
So what does that mean when you have two pretty strong candidates, the governor, Joy Hofmeister, and then a third candidate, in independent, Dr. Irvin Yen, anesthesiologist, by the way.
Right.
So he's got this medical background. That's why a lot of the issues are medical. I remember that when he was in the House, or I'm sorry, the Senate, that he was always big on vaccinations and.
Yeah, former Republican comes along, runs as an independent, starts siphoning away Bush.
Right.
Perot.
Clinton.
I mean, you can hear all that, yeah.
Okay, so Joy Hofmeister, how much does it help her that she has a statewide presence? I mean, people
helps
know,
a lot.
Yeah, across. So, is that why you say this is going to be a barn burner come November?
I think that, well, number one, dark money is going to show up, and there are some people in the state that have great disagreements with the governor who have resources. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So who do you think that is?
Well, I think that our state's tribes are very upset with this governor. They're not going to be for him.
Yeah.
And so they're going to be for somebody.
And they're going to be a pretty big voice, I have to imagine.
Sure. Absolutely. You see, these are some great people doing great business in the state of Oklahoma who have respect of Oklahomans, as does the governor. But nonetheless, it's going to be a conversation between a lot of different interests and several candidates.
Does this help the governor in him with this kind of Trump spirit that even at 23rd and Lincoln, there's Democrats that disagree with him, and there's Republicans that disagree with him? Does that help voters just outside that realm say, you know what, I still like this guy. He wants to shake things up.
I get your point. Like they're going, okay, it's inside baseball out there, right? That's what you're saying. To a lot of people, it is inside baseball. He has significant damage right now in terms of his relationship with the legislature. He's got significant damage with his standing with the tribes. But look, his numbers are pretty good. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. So his people around him, and they'll be writing an interesting speech tonight. He'll be flagging what he's going to be doing in November. But the fact is that he's overcome a lot of adversity and a lot of negative opinions.
Okay.
You mentioned his speech was going to be interesting. Well, I think we're going to hear from him here momentarily. We understand he's getting all set up on the podium right now. In fact, let's just go ahead and take a live look there right now as we wait for him to get up there and start talking, because he is going to be moving on now to the November election. This is going to be he's hoping for a second term there as our governor.
Thank y'all so much for being here tonight on an awesome, awesome evening. Just 4 years ago today, we did the impossible. Many of you in this room helped me, as a total political outsider, emerge from a crowded primary. It was such a hard-fought campaign, but we listened to Oklahomans and we traveled the state. We created a plan to jumpstart Oklahoma's turnaround and campaign on a vision to claim our rightful place as a top 10 state. And here we are again. The turnaround is working, folks. The needle is moving in the right direction. Thank you so much for believing in this movement. Together, we have ended politics as usual. We have taken a nearly a yearly budget deficit and we've turned it into a $2.5 billion savings account. It's actually the largest. Well,
we're going to have to get back. I guess
What happened there?
we saw Felice Romero who's covering Markwayne Mullin's campaign, but I think we can get
Rural
back to him.
schools.
Let's go ahead.
And we've made government more accountable to the people. We're delivering better services while keeping government small and limited. And our economy right now is booming and thriving. We actually have the lowest unemployment in our state's history right now. And the highest labor participation. You know, we cut taxes for every single Oklahoman. We cut regulations for small businesses, and it isn't going to stop there. I could go on and on, but most importantly, we protected Oklahoma's freedoms. And you know, and people all over the country right now, they're waking up and they are seeing and noticing the differences between a red state and a blue state. Never been bigger differences. Friends, let's keep Oklahoma red. We all know I have upset powerful special interest groups. Because you know what? I will never back down. I will always stand for what's right, and I'll stand for what's going to put Oklahoma and all 4 million Oklahomans in the best situation for the next generation.
Big win tonight for Governor Kevin Stitt, advancing to the November election, a race that was called, I don't know, within 30 minutes of polls closing at 7 o'clock. So he won big. We'll have more team coverage coming up right after the break.
Keep it right here on News 9, news9.com.
Wake up. Laugh. Catch up.
This is a huge impact.
Breaking news.
Engulfed in thick black smoke.
Traffic jams.
Summer showers.
UV alerts. Events.
Everything you need.
From your locally owned station.
News 9 this morning. We got you.
Locally owned means the best in the sky for you.
This rainfall has just been incredible. I-40 westbound down to 1 lane.
With the fastest news helicopter and the most experienced pilot, Jim Gardner.
125 miles an hour, fighting a Depency fire. Extract these people from this car. There's 2 of them right there.
The only street scope.
We can track it mile by mile.
80, 90 miles an hour.
Giving you information you can't get on the ground.
And this tightened up really fast.
Bob Mills, Sky News 9. Only on Oklahoma's own News 9.
Times have changed. People can get their news a lot of different places, but that doesn't always mean the news is accurate.
So many people today feel like they're being cheated, right? They're only hearing one side. There's so much out there, right? and people aren't sure what to believe. And so I think that's our job. That's our job as journalists, to give people all the information.
News 9, we work really hard to make sure that we just put the facts out there, that we're reporting the story as it comes to us.
And you make the choice that you think's right for you and your family.
You gotta know. You're busy and you're trying to make plans. Weather apps are good, but I'm going to help you fill in the details that they can't. See this? A 40% chance of rain, which means 40% of you will see rain. But which 40%? Winds will be crazy this day, but when and how strong? A fast-moving front could bring some storms. I'll tell you exactly when they'll hit. Check in with me for a weather heads up.
Get warned first with David Payne, the Oklahoma weather expert.
Wake up. Laugh. Catch up.
This is a huge impact.
Breaking news.
Engulfed in thick black smoke.
Traffic jams.
Summer showers.
UV alerts. Events.
Everything you need.
From your locally owned station.
News 9 this morning. We got you.
Locally owned means the best in the sky for you.
This rainfall has just been incredible. I-40 westbound down to 1 lane.
With the fastest news helicopter and the most experienced pilot, Jim Gardner.
125 miles an hour fighting a Depency fire. Extract these people from this car. There's 2 of them right there.
The only street scope.
We can track it mile by mile.
80, 90 miles an hour.
Giving you information you can't get on the ground.
And this tightened up really fast.
Bob Mills, Sky News 9. Only on Oklahoma's own News 9.
Times have changed. People can get their news a lot of different places, but that doesn't always mean the news is accurate.
So many people today feel like they're being cheated, right? They're only hearing one side. There's so much out there, right? And people aren't sure what to believe. And so I think that's our job. That's our job as journalists, to give people all the information.
News 9, we work really hard to make sure that we just put the facts out there, that we're reporting the story as it comes to us.
And you make the choice that you think's right for you and your family.
You gotta know. You're busy and you're trying to make plans. Weather apps are good, but I'm going to help you fill in the details that they can't. See this? A 40% chance of rain, which means 40% of you will see rain. But which 40%? Winds will be crazy this day, but when and how strong? A fast-moving front could bring some storms. I'll tell you exactly when they'll hit. Check in with me for a weather heads up.
Get warned first with David Payne, the Oklahoma weather expert. Oklahoma's own News 9 starts now with Campaign 2022, Oklahoma Votes.
It is election day now, election night here in Oklahoma, and we are keeping